told you it was love. They convinced you it was normal. They made you believe the problem was you. But somewhere beneath the confusion, the self-doubt, the endless explanations that never quite made sense, you knew something was wrong. This is where we stop pretending. This is where we examine what they never wanted you to see. The patterns that controlled you, the systems that protected them.
With the Venmo debit card, a taco in one hand, and ordering a ride in the other, means you're stacking your rewards. Nice. Get up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on your favorite brands when you pay with your Venmo debit card. From takeout to rideshares, entertainment, and more. Pick a bundle with your go-tos and start earning cash back at those brands. Venmo Stash bundle terms and exclusions apply. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
If you've ever been the one in your family relentlessly criticized for speaking up, punished for setting boundaries, or dismissed simply because you're a woman, you know what it feels like to be caught in the relentless grip of generational misogyny within abusive family systems. You might have been called dramatic for crying, too aggressive for having opinions, too emotional when you got upset about being mistreated, and somehow, magically, you were always the problem. Welcome back to the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast. I'm Lynn, your host. Today, we're diving into one of the ugliest tools in the narcissistic playbook, how generational misogyny gets weaponized to keep women as permanent scapegoats. We're talking about how deeply embedded gender bias doesn't just exist alongside family dysfunction. It actually fuels it. This isn't just about obvious sexism, though that's certainly part of it. This is about how entire family systems use misogynistic attitudes as a convenient way to maintain power structures and avoid accountability. When someone needs to stay superior and untouchable, targeting the women in the family becomes an easy default. Generational misogyny in these families operates like a virus that gets passed down. It teaches everyone that women are inherently more emotional, more difficult, more responsible for everyone else's feelings. It creates this perfect setup where any woman who dares to speak up, set a boundary, or point out mistreatment automatically becomes the source of all family problems. Here's what this looks like in practice. You might have experienced being blamed for family tension whenever you tried to address unfair treatment. Maybe you were told you were being too sensitive when you called out obvious double standards. Perhaps your brothers or male family members could get away with behavior that would have gotten you severely punished. The controlling parent or partner uses these misogynistic beliefs as weapons. They don't have to take responsibility for their actions because, hey, you're just being emotional again. They don't have to examine their behavior because obviously you're the one causing drama. It's brilliant in its cruelty because it takes societal prejudices that already exist and amplifies them into a perfect scapegoating system. You might have watched male family members get praised for the exact same assertiveness that got you labeled as difficult. Maybe you noticed that when men in your family got angry, it was justified, but when you showed any negative emotion, you were unstable. Perhaps you were expected to manage everyone's feelings while your own were consistently dismissed or minimized. This dynamic is particularly vicious because it doesn't just hurt you in that family system. It teaches you to question your own perceptions and reactions. You start wondering if maybe you really are too much. Maybe you really are overreacting. Maybe your feelings really don't matter as much as everyone else's comfort. The person scapegoating you gets to kill two birds with one stone. They avoid accountability for their behavior, and they get to feel superior because they're not like those emotional, difficult women. They get to position themselves as the rational one, the reasonable one, while you're painted as the source of chaos. What makes this even more insidious is how it gets reinforced by other family members. You might have had other women in your family participate in keeping you in this role. Sometimes women who've been beaten down by the same system will turn around and help maintain it, especially if it means they get to avoid being the target. You probably internalized some brutal messages about your worth and your voice, that your feelings don't matter as much, that you're responsible for keeping peace even when others are creating chaos, that speaking up makes you difficult, that your intuition can't be trusted because you're too emotional. Here's what I need you to understand. None of that was true. You weren't too emotional. You weren't overreacting. You weren't the problem. What you were was a convenient target in a system that needed someone to blame. And misogyny made you the perfect choice. The person who scapegoated you used centuries of ingrained bias as their personal toolkit. They took advantage of existing prejudices to avoid looking at themselves. Your gender became a weapon against you, wielded by someone who needed to stay superior at all costs. You weren't difficult for having boundaries. You weren't dramatic for having feelings. You weren't too much for existing as a full human being with thoughts, opinions, and needs. You were inconvenient to someone who needed you smaller, quieter, and more compliant. The anger you feel about this, that's appropriate. The grief over what you lost, that's real. The confusion about why you were treated differently, that makes perfect sense. You didn't imagine it. It wasn't fair, and it sure as hell wasn't your fault. So here's what I want you to think about. How has the experience of generational misogyny shaped the way you were blamed or silenced in your family or intimate relationships? What messages did you internalize about your worth or voice? Not to fix anything or figure out next steps, just to acknowledge what really happened to you. This is Lynn, and this has been another episode of the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast. I'll see you in the next one. Visit our website at movingforwardafterabuse.com for articles, resources, and more support on your recovery journey.
Ever walk past a place for rent and wish you could just take a peek inside? Maybe even explore the layout, envision the natural light streaming through the windows, or plan where your vinyl record collection would go. At Apartments.com, you can. With tools like their 3D virtual tours, you can see the exact unit you could be living in. Really envision yourself in your new home with Apartments.com, the place to find a place.
This work is hard, really hard. Questioning everything you were taught. Seeing systems that were invisible, sitting with truth that change how you see the world. It's exhausting and overwhelming sometimes. There's no timeline for this, no right way to process it. We've gone daily now because these conversations matter. Subscribe so new episodes land automatically when they drop.